what he discovered as he opened me up is that this one had fully ruptured, the right one. And we actually did it near Halloween, and he posted it on his thing. It was like yellow, like
I mean,
goo.
when you sent me pictures of that, I was like, I think to myself, truly, I drove 200 miles an hour and hit walls. And I literally had one checked in an MRI like in 2018 because it was hard. And I thought maybe it's ruptured and everything was fine. So I'm like, how does this happen? Like, how does the silicone just sort of like fail? As we know, transdermal works. So like your scar tissue is still seeping and leaching. Like there's no way it's not concrete, So that's did the doctor say that that was a really dangerous situation?
He was basically just like, I haven't seen this in 5 years. And then, I was grateful that my body encapsulated it. But like you said, there's still stuff that's happening, and I didn't even ask him about mold, what was going on there. If it's ruptured, like Lord knows what's seeping through my body. So I definitely want to do some sort of like detox and cleansing protocol.
Just do some testing. That way, I mean, sometimes people test things and they're totally fine, and that hopefully is the case. But yeah, those tests are really easy.
It was a godsend, and I don't know how my body did it. My body protected me. My body is so intelligent. But Lord knows how that thing ruptured. I mean, was it the pressure of the breast milk? I don't know.
What have you noticed after? Have you noticed anything, or is it more just like, what have you enjoyed about it? If you like symptom wise, I'm curious, but then also just like energetically, where were you at and what were you feeling needed to shift? And then what are the little things that you notice now that you're like, oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, I just feel there's just like a lightness of being and a back to myself. So it's just a lighter load. And, I've had like upper right shoulder neck problems, which is the side that had ruptured. So I think there was a lot of like muscle tension that was also like protecting me too. So that I think is going to be able to release more and more, and that's been just chronic for years, probably enhanced by the implant. So I mean, that alone is a game changer of quality of life, because it's a constant, like I feel like I have a bag of rocks on my back. So I think that is all able to unwind, and I just feel like, I don't know, I just feel like I can open my heart more, even again, like you want to be more proportionate, you want to be more womanly, but then you subconsciously know that there's some inauthenticity here. So you kind of like hunch, you don't, you don't, at least I didn't. I was a little bit like protective too of being too womanly. It's like you can never hit it just right. So just having that whole narrative and whole thing gone. And it's a journey. I don't like beat myself up. It was like, that's where I was at 12 years ago. Here I am today. And I also think it's so interesting too, as we see there's just different, I think it's just like also, not to name any like celebrity families or anything, but like a lot of people are getting butt implants and boobs and lips. And
can you imagine sitting on implants? I mean, I'd lay down in yoga or for a massage, and I'd lay down and I'd be like, God, these things are annoying. And they were 200 cc's. Can you imagine sitting your ass down with ass implants? I just can't. I can't.
I've just always thought the goal was to get a smaller ass.
I agree. I go into the gym and I'm like, I don't want a bigger butt. Okay. I don't want a bigger butt.
I know.
So hamstrings it is.
But there's a whole culture that likes a bigger butt, and those women thought that was more womanly, I don't know. So
Barbie proportions, not to call anyone out, that there was a picture of like Barbie and someone and like how the body was shaped the same. And I'm like, it's not fucking real.
But I think that there's an unwinding of that now too. And people are going back to a more, I don't know. This certainly feels right for me. And I'm just also at a different place in my life where I'm more about who am I authentically, and less searching for any sort of feedback or validation from the outside world, and more just like, what makes me feel good? What do I want to express? And it took me 43 years to get to this point. And you have to just go along the way. So that was just part of the journey.
I do think that it's appropriate for, in the spirit of implants, to go back in time to like just explain like why you did it, like when did you do it and why did you do it?
Totally. So 12 years ago, I guess, 2010, I'd never like thought about getting implants, but I'd always been self-conscious of my shoulders. Just proportionally, like I was a pretty proportioned kid, but people always commented, are you a swimmer? Your shoulders are so big. My arms were just big. That was my perception. And then I was pretty flat. Ultimately, I just wanted to be in proportion. I wanted to feel like a woman. As I went through this whole journey of making the decision, because you inspired me to do so, which was so awesome. I was thinking back, I was like trying to do the whole healing process of like, what really got me to do it? I mean, in 2010, it was because I was sick of being out of proportion and I wanted to feel more feminine. But what was it back in the day? And I remember this boy that I'm still friends with today. He was like my first love. It was in 8th to 9th grade. And I think it was in 8th grade, and he made a comment about how flat I was because everybody around me was, going through puberty. I was a much later bloomer. And, looking back, it means nothing to me, but I remember being absolutely devastated. And then, I went through puberty probably 2-3 years after most of my girlfriends, and he had a girlfriend at the time who had gone through puberty in 8th grade. And
I had big boobs, and you were like, comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly. So joy ripped from me. And then, there was just this subconscious little trauma that I had suppressed. So at the time, I was an actor at the time. And so I remember telling my surgeon, please, I don't want big boobs. I just want shape. It was more of just like, I was a full B, but but they were just like, they were just not doing anything. They weren't perky. They weren't doing anything. So I was like, I just want a little more shape and to be more proportionate. And so before I went under, I was like, I know you tell me I want more. I don't want more. I'm blonde. If you give me bigger boobs, I'm going to just be typecast as a bimbo, and that's the end of my career. So, so I got really small implants.
How small were they? I had 213. That's where mine were.
Yeah, I think mine was around that too. That's not big, right?
No. No. Most don't go much under 300.
Yeah, I think mine was like somewhere like 210 to 220.
Yeah, that's pretty small. So you had the same set. So you only ever had one set.
Only had one set, 12 years. I remember someone telling, they were silicone.
This is before the FDA banned silicone? Or did you somehow get silicone? I can't remember the years, but they did. Remember when they banned silicone for a while because it was banned because it was unhealthy. And I remember thinking of myself, I'm like, oh, that's stupid. Somebody obviously won in some like money war battle. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I just remember people saying silicone was softer and I wanted really natural. Yeah. And even though I was like healthy minded at the time, not like I am today, it was still about aesthetic for me. So I was just like, I don't care if salines safer. I want them to feel real.
Did you even know silicone to be unsafe?
I knew there were risks. I knew that if they leaked into your body, that you could have some toxic reaction, and you didn't want them to leak. And that's why this is like the basic due diligence that I did. Silicone has more risk than saline because if somehow they leaked, which is very unlikely, it could be toxic to your body, but you would know, and then you could get them removed and it wouldn't be like tragic. I didn't realize until I just took them out that I got like the silicone gel, like they had, and maybe this was after it was banned and then they came back with this gel that was less likely to leak. So I knew there was like this 10-year expiry, but then I also knew people that had their implants in for 20 years. So I was like, sure, you skirt by for a couple of years, you're going to be fine. Then I had a child and then I breastfed, and thank God I was still able to breastfeed. That was my biggest worry. But after you breastfeed, you lose a lot of tissue. So then I started to feel, in the last couple of years, I started to feel the implants in me, even though they're small, but I could feel, and I was like, okay, I got to get them out. And then I saw your story and I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this. Let's do this. I think I grew up in the Victoria's Secret age. I was born in 1979. So in the 80s and early 90s, it was like the supermodels were all kind of Victoria's Secret models.
That song, have you heard that song? The Victoria's Secret song?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, you have to hear the Victoria's Secret song. It's basically saying Victoria was made up by a dude in Ohio. Les Wexman is made up by a dude in Ohio. She's not real. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true.
So true. Exactly. So it's this unrealistic ideal of the woman that, every guy, in Playboy, that kind of pinup proportion never appealed to me, but like the bikini model, svelte but still curvy. Some of it was natural, some of it was not. Much of it was airbrushed. So again, unrealistic. And that was just what I grew up thinking was the ideal for men, And then when you are in your late 20s, early 30s, and things aren't working out in love or acting, you just like want to make a change, and you're like, well, this is the problem. This is the one area I'm not proportionate, or whatever. It's so silly to look back on.
When I got them, I wanted to feel more womanly as well. And when when a guy grabs it, there ain't nothing there. Okay. And then I was like, and then they felt them, and I was like, oh my God, now I just think about the fact that they're fake. Like it didn't even work. And, then they come out, and I still feel, you still have reasons to feel insecure. If it's not my boobs, it's my butt. If it's not my butt, it's my abs. If it's not my abs, it's my legs. Like it just found another place to be unhappy. I mean, that's what I found. So, like systemically, I feel like it's more of a root cause. So do you feel like it solved your problems, or do you feel like it just transferred?
100% it just transfers, and and this is the journey that I'm on. This is a journey I think we all are on, is to get to a place where we can fully accept every aspect of ourselves and our psyche. And now, I mean, I love having them out. Like you said, like you wanted to be more womanly and proportionate, but then when there was actual intimacy and interaction with them, you're like, I hope it's an implant, and I've like made sure I did like the doctor, like after you get implants in, you're supposed to like move them so they don't get hard and get encapsulated. And so I did like twice as much. I was like, forget the pain. Like I'm making these girls natural, but you're still self-conscious with intimacy, because you're like, there's going to be a little bit of because they're not real.
If you like this clip and you want to hear the whole episode, click at the bottom of your screen.